1837. Barnes Village, now a suburb of London, but then a rural backwater, is the scene of a terrifying incident. Barnes Common was always a dangerous place to find yourself after dark. But for one businessman, running late, the shortcut was worth the risk, until he passed the graveyard. Suddenly, something vaulted high over the railings. Seeing the unnaturally glowing eyes, the man turned and fled. The appearance sparked a frenzy that gripped Barnes and other villages surrounding London. Over the next 70 years, more and more sightings were reported throughout the United Kingdom. This was the arrival of Spring-Heeled Jack. Jack's extraordinary jumps led to the name Spring-Heeled, convincing some he was a demon. But for others, the jury is still out. Researcher and author Mike Dash has been obsessed with him since he was a child. I met him at the graveyard on Barnes Common to find out why.
Well, he's probably the most terrifying character in the history of London. I first came across him when I was quite young, about 11 years old, in a magazine called World of Wonder, which portrayed him in a particularly frightening way. He's a demonic figure. He leaps out of the darkness, breathes blue and white balls of fire into the face of his victims. He has blazing red eyes, and he has not fingers but iron claws. This creature scared me so much that I've effectively spent the last 30 years of my life researching the subject in an attempt to inoculate myself against that terror.
In this period, though, there are plenty of contemporary accounts of his appearance.
Yes, we have court records, we have letters written to the Times, the Lord Mayor of London examining the case as well, so it's certainly true that there was a tremendous amount of terror and fear.
One resident of Peckham complained to the mayor that the unmanly villain has succeeded in depriving 7 ladies of their senses. And there are 2 ladies who have husbands and children and who are not expected to recover, but likely to become a burden on their families. Freelance journalists fueled public panic with ever more lurid reports, especially after the devilish attack in the East End on Jane Alsop, regarded as a credible witness by the courts.
When she appeared at Lambeth Street, she did have scratches and clumps of hair that had been torn out, so certainly something very frightening had happened to her.
The courts suspected foul play rather than the supernatural. The mad Marquis of Waterford, a notorious prankster, certainly had the means to obtain elaborate costumes and cover his tracks.
He could have been the original Spring-Heeled Jack.
Did the police bring him in?
The police never brought him in. Noblemen got away with quite a lot in those days. But of course he couldn't have been responsible for all the reports of Spring-Heeled Jack, which occurred up and down throughout the country until as late as 1904.
All your adult life you have thought about Spring-Heeled Jack. You're now here, Barnes Common, where he was first sighted. It's midnight. What do you honestly believe?
My best guess is a panic spurred on by local journalists writing scary stories to get paid, but perhaps with some actual physical assaults wrapped in there by people who decided it was a good idea to perpetrate jokes that got out of hand.
So it's a mixture. Blame the press, but there might also have been a real Spring-Heeled.
It's entirely possible.
Despite his devilish deeds, Victorian story papers gradually transformed him into a folk hero, a wronged aristocrat defending the vulnerable, the forerunner of Batman. And even in the 1970s, he was seen apparently running through the attics of terraced houses in Sheffield. Angel or devil, Jack refuses to die.
Maybe Spring-Heeled Jack is immortal. He lives on in our universal fear of strangers leaping out on us after dark. Or maybe we just like to be terrified. Either way, is there a better time for a demonic spirit to reacquaint itself with its old hunting ground than Halloween at midnights?